Hi, we are back again. That was a very nice thing you said about honesty. That really kind of bothered me. And not being wrong, but it bothered me that I hadn't done my due diligence, which I normally do. Because one of the things I hate is I don't want to spread fake news. It was a good story, though. And even the person who posted the story was called out by somebody, and they said, "Stop posting things from 2023."
Maybe you better mention what you're talking about.
Oh,
The
the
Nancy
Nancy
Pelosi story
Pelosi. Sorry, the
that we
Nancy
got wrong.
that we got wrong. In any case, we're it happens, and it probably will happen again. And if it happens again, we will apologize again.
And when we apologize again, our ratings will only go up. When you apologize sincerely,
Yeah.
you collect the prize. You don't pay the price.
Speaking of sincerity, we've tried to stay away from the Rob Reiner, President Trump situation. And but I almost couldn't help myself. I kept seeing posts of people putting up things. And one of them was not funny, but they posted what President Trump had said about Rob Reiner. And then their statement was, when President Trump dies, I'm going to be dancing on his grave. There's going to be celebration. We're going to have fireworks. People are going to be dancing in the streets. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. You're upset with him for saying something true about somebody who has passed by saying something that you were going to celebrate the death of this person. And one of the things that came to me in all of this rhetoric that I saw was hypocrisy, just the blatant hypocrisy on the left and the right. And what it reminded me of, Bill, was when people go to somebody's funeral because they feel like they're supposed to. And in the group, in the wake, and everywhere, they talk about what a wonderful person they were and how beloved they were and how sweet they were. And I always want to turn to them and say, really, you didn't say that 5 minutes ago. You didn't like the person.
Yeah, but
Why?
you can't say that in public because their family's right there, and
Well, but my point is, we all do it. We all say things that we don't mean simply because it's politically correct or it's the right thing to do. And one of the things that I like most about President Trump is he is not a hypocrite. He is not a hypocrite. He says what he says, he means what he says, and he does what he says he will do. He is, and I said this in many posts that I put up, I would much rather have a wolf in my corner than a wolf in sheep's clothing. And the biggest wolf in sheep's clothing that I know about is none other than Mike Pence. Mike Pence is the very person that would say exactly the right thing, hit exactly the right tone. And people would say, oh, how presidential he is. And Mike Pence will smile in your face and stab you in the back in a millisecond. At least with President Trump, you know exactly where you stand. And if he doesn't like you, you know that. And if you do something he doesn't like, you know that. He doesn't gossip about you behind your back. He comes to you front on front, and people can't stand that. They are looking for decorum. Do I think he should have said all that he did? I don't know. To be honest with you, probably not. But here's the thing. If he hadn't said anything, what would people be saying? Some people said he shouldn't have said anything. Well, people would be saying, why is he not commenting on this?
Right.
Why is he not saying this? Well, he should make a comment that this was a icon, And then they want to talk about Rob Reiner had nice things to say about Charlie Kirk when he was assassinated. But he didn't have nice things to say the day after Rush Limbaugh died. He went after him and called him a liar and said he was spreading lies.
And so maybe he learned something from that, and so then he toned it down for Charlie Kirk.
Maybe, but Charlie Kirk also wasn't. I mean, the sin that Rush Limbaugh committed in Rob Reiner's eyes is Rush Limbaugh put down climate change. He didn't go along with climate change, and Rob Reiner just found that indefensible. And I want to mention just one other thing, and then I want to move on a little bit. I did see a post by somebody who said Obama had nice things to say about Rob Reiner. President Trump had mean things to say about Rob Reiner. Well, let me think. Obama was his friend. Obama and Michelle were supposed to go out to dinner with him the night after he was so brutally murdered. Rob Reiner had really nice things to say about Obama, contributed to his campaign. They were basically, I guess you would say, friends. There's a difference. And the difference is President Trump, again, is not a hypocrite. And when I read my Bible, one of the things that Jesus came after the most were the hypocrites. They were the religious leaders of the day who were hypocrites, and he called them out for it. You know, that sticks in my craw. And one of the biggest hypocrites in my mind is Mike Pence. Mike Pence. It was the biggest hypocrite of all. Mike Pence stood up there and said to us, all of us, that come January 6th, the truth will come out. We will investigate every single one of these.
The worst.
He made people feel better. He made them think, oh, good, we're actually going to investigate this. He probably knew January 6th was going to happen
He
because
absolutely knew.
He did. I'm sure he did. The FBI was, planning 275 FBI agents. Come on. And
as agent provocateurs.
Yes.
Or at least a large percentage of them.
Yes.
That's where the violence came from. It didn't come from Trumpers.
And then in his own...
before I
go ahead.
Where is your craw? What is a craw?
I'll get there. Jeez. But then in his own memoir, what did he say? Because he read that book out loud. He said, I saw all those hopeful people thinking that there was going to be a different outcome, and I felt so bad for them. You promised them that you were going to look into it, and you knew
Evil one.
You knew you weren't going to do it. You lied. You big fat lying liar. I'm telling you, that stuck in my craw. You said we're going to look into this, and then you, in your memoirs, you admitted you had absolutely no intention of doing that. You lied to people to make them feel good. Well, guess what? President Trump doesn't do that. He doesn't lie to people, make them feel good.
And then you put up that specious story about Trump grabbed the wheel to try to make
That's right.
Oh, what a lie. God.
And then you ran in the primaries in 2024 because you said we cannot have that man back in the White House. And how many votes did you get in the primary? You dropped out of the primaries, Mike. You had to drop out in October because you didn't have the support. You didn't have the money.
How many votes did he get?
404 votes only in the New Hampshire primary because they had already still had his name on the ballot. And that's all the votes we can find. We looked into it to make sure we weren't spreading vicious rumors. You didn't win. And then do you remember the classified documents they found in President Trump's possession, which he had every right to have? And you said, oh, that was terrible. Then they found them in your possession, and you went, oops, I'm sorry, I made a mistake.
Which you had no authority to have, not even one. Trump had full authority to have everything he had.
That's right. It's
liars.
Yeah, big fat liar. Liar. I want to say liar pants on. Well, so yesterday, I don't know exactly what day. It was yesterday or the day before. Mike Pence puts out, Kennedy should step aside and give President Trump the opportunity to select a new HHS secretary who will deliver pro-life results for the American people. Really? That's your concern? Pro-life results for the American people? I wonder about that because Eli Lilly, the CEO of Eli Lilly, donated $25,000 to your campaign. The same Eli Lilly who kicked up dust and complained and swore they were going to leave Indiana because of the anti-abortion laws that Indiana passed. So this Eli Lilly, really? Anyway, he wants to get rid of Robert RFKJ, because they're not investigating, they're not researching some drugs fast enough for Mike Pence, and he wants them to do that. And so he posts that he wants to get rid of RFKJ. Really, I'm sorry. General Mike Flynn put this tweet up, and I kind of like General Mike Flynn's response.
I love him.
He says, "You need to crawl back into the snake hole you crawled out of."
Bravo.
You who ran Operation Warp Speed and that caused millions to die. You were the absolute worst personnel decision in the last half century.
Bravo.
And that,
yeah, that's Happy Cat in the window. I'm talking to a commenter.
Oh,
that's where he stands when he wants to come in.
Yeah. 20,000 times a day, in, out. That's the way they go. However, I like General Flynn. He calls it like it is. President Trump calls it like it is. I mean, some of the things Rob Reiner said about President Trump were vile and disgusting. Some of the things he said about us, the supporters, were vile and disgusting. I can't even repeat the language he used about us. And it was horrific death, horrific. But, Mike Pence wants to talk about saving lives, wants to talk about RFKJ not being pro-life enough. Well, I don't know. I consider his investigation and research into vaccines that may be killing children to be pro-life. I think his investigation into the COVID-19 vaccine that might cause some problems being pro-life. I think his insistence that the pharmaceutical companies not be allowed to advertise on TV might help save some lives. And also, I think it's a good idea. They used to advertise cigarettes and they couldn't advertise prescription medicine. I think we need to go back to that. I think taking out the dyes in food coloring is pro-life. It helps people's lives. I think all of the things that he is addressing with the FDA, the CDC, and everything else is pretty pro-life to me. Taking away the hepatitis B vaccine from infants who don't need it, I think that's pretty pro-life.
Somebody says Rob Reiner was not acting in All in the Family. Carol O'Connor's was.
Right. Right. That's what I said to you. Rob Reiner in All in the Family was a lefty. He was an atheist, lefty. And that's what I said. I said it wasn't an act. He was being.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
It wasn't an act. He was being true to himself. Carol O'Connor was also very conservative, and so
he was playing himself too, right?
Well, I don't know if he was. No, but he wasn't. He wasn't a racist and all of those things. He was not playing himself. He was a conservative. Right. He wasn't racist.
Shows you how much I watch TV.
Meathead. Now, he called him Meathead. He was called, and I don't want to get into any of things that we've seen or heard or rumors about his family situation. I think the family has enough to deal with. I think they have enough grieving to do, and but I don't like the reaction that I'm seeing on both sides of the aisle. It's very hypocritical to me. It's like you cheer on when, where were you when Kathy Griffin held up the severed head of President Trump? Where were you when people were calling for saying Charlie Kirk deserved to die? Where were these people? They were nowhere to be found. They weren't complaining about this. They're not complaining about things that other people have said about dancing on President Trump's grave and having, fireworks. Where were these people then? They weren't there. So they want to have it both ways. Look, President Trump is bombing the boats that are bringing fentanyl to our shores that are killing children. President Trump.
Yes, and he's having to kill 2 or 3 people per boat, and yet each boat carries enough fentanyl to kill 25,000 young Americans.
That's right.
Now, what kind of deal are you talking about here? Blow those boats out of the water.
That's right. And that's the kind of person I want dealing with Xi Jinping and dealing with Putin and dealing with Zelensky and talking to all these other world leaders. I don't want somebody who's going to be.
We're so lucky to have Trump. So lucky. God, thank you.
Absolutely. and I was kind of happy I paid $2.59 a gallon for gas the other day. I mean, I'm happy to see all these illegal aliens being deported out of our country. I'm
And the Trump effect is going to just go on for the next 3 or 4 years, even. We haven't seen the beginning of what he's done just in the first year.
That's right.
It takes time to come on.
That's right. And you can't have sweet and sour at the same time. He said what he said. He is who he is. He's not pretending to be somebody else. He's not sugarcoating things. And that's one of the things we like about him. And sometimes when you have somebody like that, you have to accept things they say you don't like. Because most of the time, I like what he says. I like the stand he takes. I like what he's doing for the country. I feel safer. I'd rather be safe than have a president who was always playing nice.
Well, just imagine what life would be like if Mike Pence was president right now. Would we ever know what he was really doing, or what he really felt like, or what he really said to Putin, or what would we know anything to be true? No, we would not. But we might not know for several years. That's the even worse problem.
That's the worst problem. And we may find out in recent months or years, all to the extent of what he did do or what he did know, or whether he was in cahoots with Nancy Pelosi, who did take responsibility for not having the National Guard there. At least she admitted it privately. She didn't realize it was going to leak out.
Was that because that was the film that her daughter was taking?
And so, yeah, I mean, that's the only reason that we know the truth. That's the only time, to my knowledge, she ever spoke the truth. You want to talk about non-presidential. She rips up the State of the Union speech in that famous, right there in
disgusting behavior on the floor of the United States Congress. Disgusting. She'll never live that down.
That's right. So
somebody on chat just said, well, the same with Vance. I don't think so. I do not detect any of that in Mr. Vance. But we'll let you know as the time grows nigh. But
And I will say, we've said this publicly, I liked Mike Pence for a long time, and Bill did not like him, didn't trust him, and I did like him. You know why? Because I bought the rhetoric. I bought what he said. I wasn't paying attention to who he really was, and you weren't listening, and that there's a lesson in that. It's like when somebody tells you who they are.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Well, I've said that a lot. You just don't remember.
Yeah, as I said in my little piece that I just put up, memory is getting to be more of a problem.
Yeah, well, and that's okay. You're greatly loved. Are there any other comments before we sign off for the day?
Vance, a Peter Thiel's operator.
Well,
I don't know who that is, but we'll look into it.
Yeah, I do, Peter. Well, we don't have time to go into all of that, but we can certainly look into that. J.D. Vance is one who has admitted that he was anti-Trump. He said nobody should vote for this guy in 2016 until somebody challenged him to look into the truth about some of the things they were saying about President Trump. And I believe that he genuinely changed his mind. I haven't seen any evidence of anything other than that. And when we do, and if we do, we will say it.
Okay, well, let's lay it down right here. J.D. Vance, if you ever get to see this, please let us know exactly. Respond, and we can determine whether we believe you or not. Well,
yeah,
that's it.
I mean, we have to wait and see on that. We'll see what happens. But I also too, all of this evidence that President Trump does have, I want to mention this because this is important. Venezuela. The whole situation in Venezuela is not what it all appears to be. It's not all about drugs, although President Trump has always been talking about the drugs coming across. Even before he was president, he talked about that. That was a concern. There's something way more going on in Venezuela, and I think some of it has to do with the elections, and I think some of it has to do with.
Oh, yeah, that was when the voting machines first came into play, when Maduro was running for re-election the first time. Now I remember they were talking about the voting machines fabrications even back then. That was the first time you heard voting machines might be bad.
Right. And Emerald Robinson did a report. I haven't had a chance to watch all of it. Patrick Byrne has been working on it, and Elon Musk has been working on it. It's not just that the voting machines were not maybe working. I'm trying to be careful how I say this because, in Venezuela, but it's also what Venezuela was doing to influence the elections in other countries such as ours. And there is information there that I believe will come out. And I am going to watch Emerald Robinson's report with Patrick Byrne and see all the details that they have to say. I'm just saying, heads up. And is that, are there any comments that we need to?
Well, there's nothing there that.
Okay.
It's too complicated to go into.
Yeah, right. Keep it simple. Okay, so no, you don't need to just.
We ending?
Yes, I think so. God bless President Trump. And I will say this, and God bless the Rob Reiner family. I know they are suffering, they are hurting. And I just pray for them. And I pray for the son, who obviously is troubled. God bless the United States of America. God bless General Flynn. And God bless all of you. Have a wonderful afternoon.